Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Bill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and in this segment, I'm going to talk about tyranny is now in the pockets of unemployment benefits. Tyranny is in the pockets of unemployment benefits. Now, what do I mean? I'm talking about the jab, the JAB, that the government is trying to force a number of us to get. However, you have two types of people when it comes to the jab. You've got the sheeple who have already gotten the jab. Some have fallen prey to the jab. And of course, you've gotten people like me who will not get the jab because I know what's going on with it. And if I become a terminated employee because I don't get it, so be it. I have a business on the side. But what's going on in this country is we have a number of individuals, for the sake of feeling good, who haven't studied anything about the virus. They've been told to get something for compliance. In fact, the government, for the most part, has tried to offer anything and everything for people to get the jab. But what's so funny about the jab is this: people come from the South and the states like Florida and Texas, which are red states. They're not required to get the jab. In fact, you have New York City and other states, particularly the blue states, that are bringing back the mask mandate for individuals who want to use facilities inside building structures, such as restaurants, colleges, and of course, gymnasiums. When it comes to this COVID, there's been information, particularly by flip-flopping Fauci, regarding the jab, regarding the mask mandate. Many of us are left dazed and confused. But in reality, the people who became sheeples, they're the scared people. Now, I know when it comes down to your job, that's a tough decision to make. But what about if you don't have a job or you lose your job? Can they come after you for not getting the jab if you want to receive unemployment benefits? And this is what the rest of this video is going to talk about. Let me share my screen. Got this article on the Blaze. And what you see is some people who refuse to get the vac may not be eligible to receive unemployment benefits. Again, some people. Now, who are the some people? That's not adequately specified. But whether you have some or whether you have most, tyranny is getting into unemployment benefits. Now, if I do an analysis on this, is it because the government is running out of money? Is it because the government is providing shelter for illegals to come across the border? In fact, a number of these illegals are actually bringing the virus across the border, particularly in red states like Texas and Florida. But when it comes to this fact, it's funny, but up in New York, 72% of African Americans haven't had the jab. What's the Democrat Mayor Bill de Blasio doing about that? Because if he says something about the African Americans, guess what? He's going to be called a racist. But when we start getting into people's unemployment benefits, that's a problem. And I'm going to say, Houston, we have a problem. And for a number of you individuals who voted for this administration, you get the government you wanted. And the problem with this government is it's not encouraging individuals to get out and work. So with this tyranny in the back pocket for individuals who are receiving unemployment benefits, particularly in blue states, what are you going to do? You're going to cut them off? Because when you start cutting people's money off, you're taking a chance at a real war. And 2022 is coming up. And there are a number of individuals who have seats up. In fact, all 438 congressional seats in the House of Representatives, the U.S. House of Representatives, are up. And you have some senatorial seats. But when we deal with the vax, some call it the jab, you have people out there who are on unemployment. Now, there are people who are getting more in unemployment than they would be getting if they were working. And that's a problem as well, because small businesses are going out of business, particularly in the hospitality sector. But this article, and I'll post the link at the bottom of my video, is from theblaze.com. And I'm going to get into this article. I want you all to tell me what you believe. Because if we don't do something about this tyranny, this Nazi government is going to pull all of us out of our homes over a jab. I mean, they're trying to force everybody to get the vax. But with this, if you are on unemployment benefits, those who refuse to get the vax against the Rona may not be eligible to receive unemployment benefits. Now, this is based on KHOU TV. It's a television station in Houston. Now, here are the details. KHOU's Mia Selinetri says that, generally speaking, People fired for refusing required vax, including the new Rona 19 vax, can be denied unemployment benefits in some cases. Well, the question is, what are the cases? Now, some who refuse the jab may be looking forward to the support of unemployment benefits while they continue to look for a new job. That doesn't require vax, but many of them, that might not be an option at all. Salinitree rights. Now, major corporations like Disney and Walmart say they will require Rona 19 vax for some employees. Again, who are some employees? That word some is got a question mark by it because salinitree rights in general, those fired for refusing to get unemployment. So again, those fired for refusing to get unemployment. For the most part, if you're fired, you're going to apply for unemployment. Now, according to the representatives at the Seltzer Law Firm and the Employment Law Group, in most areas of the country, if you are fired for breaking company policy, in the cases of Disney, Walmart, Google, and more refusing to provide proof of required vax, you are not eligible for unemployment payments. So, what it is, and I know I live here in Indiana. I know Indiana University, Purdue University, Ivy Tech, they're requiring some documentation to see if you got the vac, but they're also requiring documentation to see if you've taken a Rona test. So you have choices. And of course, some states and cities, the mask mandate is back. But when we're dealing with unemployment, again, the government is forcing people by scaring them into getting the jab. Now, employment attorney John H. Arrington told Salinitree that even something as simple as a dress code violation is considered company insubordination. It's misconduct, and it would likely disqualify you from receiving unemployment benefits. Now, Harrington warned and pointed out that in some cases, the only way to get Brown is to provide a valid medical or religious exemption, which are determined with employers only on a case-by-case basis. Now, we have received numerous inquiries from clients and potential clients about how courts are likely to view these situations. He added, we've been advising that if you have one of these two valid reasons to believe that you should be exempt from a VAC requirement, you should assert them. But otherwise, companies are entitled to require that employees be vaccinated. Now, these companies, here's the thing, they are private companies. They have company policy. I know there was a hospital in Houston that was requiring their employees to get the vac. The problem is you have these private companies that are basically taking orders from the government. Again, this is more or less fear mongering. You see, when it comes to any vac, it takes 3, 6, little longer for it to be FDA approved. And there are a number of people who have gotten the vac and they've passed the vac. Well, they passed the coronavirus to someone else and they've gotten it themselves. I had a coworker who got 2 shots of the vaccine. He was out for 10 days. So when it comes to this report, the report notes that if a company's VAC policy is made clear to employees, as well as the repercussions of flouting the policy, and the employee still refuses, the disqualification for UC benefits, that's unemployment benefits, is the same as if they had broken any other company rule. Well, what else? Attorney Diane Seltzer said, in every claim for unemployment benefits, the employer has an opportunity to present the reasons for the separation. And an employer can choose not to respond. So if an employee is not truthful or not completely transparent when they apply for benefits, and the employer chooses not to contest it, the employee might not get their benefits based on what they are representing. Now, that is true. If you've been terminated and you disclose you've been terminated, like for a layoff, you can get the benefits. But if you refuse or you lie as an employee, you can't get unemployment benefits. Now, again, this is what they're talking about, what I believe they could be talking about on a case-by-case basis. However, if this is upheld, there'll be a lot of companies that are going to use this mechanism to force people to get the jab. Now, Salonitri's report also cites some Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. unemployment compensation guidelines that point to gross misconduct. And when that happens, you start to become a little skeptical about the jab. Now, I used to live in the Maryland, Virginia, and DC area, and that's where all the power comes from. But when it comes to these unemployment compensation guidelines and gross misconduct, you have to ask yourself, is the unemployment compensation guidelines, are they willfully violating a company policy or rule, which can disqualify a worker from receiving state benefits? That's something that should be determined, because gross misconduct, if you work for a company, is actually defined, at least in part, as an act which deliberately or willfully violates an employer's rule. Seltzer explained. Okay, when it comes to work policies, you have to read the work policy. But when it comes to what Seltzer is explaining, she's saying that the misconduct is actually defined, at least in part, as an act to which deliberately or willfully violates an employer's rule. But what is the employer's rule? Well, you can be terminated if you violate a rule, especially if it's intentional or deliberate. Deliberately refusing to provide proof of a Rona-19 vax would certainly be considered gross misconduct, Seltzer added. Okay, what if it's a company that's hiring an illegal? What do you do about that? Because if you want me to show documentation then while some of these illegals have to provide documentation as well as being American citizens. We're giving them free reins while we have to abide by the rules. And we're the ones who are paying the taxes. See, what the government doesn't understand, if you don't have enough people working, we're going to eventually run out of unemployment benefits anyway. But what this is also causing as well is, okay, if you want to require individuals to provide documentation to get unemployment benefits, then they're going to have to do the same thing to get a job. That's exactly what you're doing. You're underhandedly putting the information into the policy to basically, and this is just my thought, you're basically trying to keep people out of work, and you're trying to keep them from getting unemployment benefits, because eventually what's going to happen is you're going to take their position and eventually erase it by replacing it with a kiosk or some other form of artificial intelligence. And I say that because if you think about it, a kiosk or computer doesn't need health benefits, doesn't need IRA benefits. You don't have to worry about giving it a raise. You don't have to worry about it calling off for work. So there's no sick time, there's no vacation time involved. You don't have to worry about a robot or a computer making too many mistakes because it's programmed. The only thing that you're going to have to do is maintain the maintenance of the system. Because eventually what I see is when you keep enough people out of work and there's no work, you're going to have a lot more poor people. And when people get poor, and when it comes to age, they're not working, guess what? You don't have to pay their health benefits. You don't have to pay Social Security, because some of them are going to die out. And some of them have skills. They might work or create a cash-owned business for themselves. It's called a hustle. But when it comes to most jobs, if you require the jab for unemployment benefits, and you also require the jab for people to work, I'm going to say this, you've got two things that are going on. You're either going to fear them into getting a jab because they want to get the numbers up. But here's the problem. Where are the numbers that the jab is working? And when it comes to people who are perishing, haven't heard too many people who have perished from the flu, haven't heard too many people who have perished from strokes, Alzheimer's. It's all about this jab. And the vax were that good, many of us would have it. I mean, we were told that masks would help. Then we were told that masks didn't help. And we were told that you need to wear 2 masks. Then they took the mask mandate off. Now they brought it back. And this administration really wants a national mandate because they're the federal government. They want to nationalize everything to put it at their level so we can live under tyranny. That's what's going on. And so you have to read between the lines and you have to follow the actions of people. the individuals who are making all these laws, the rules aren't going to apply to them. They're going to apply to us. Because from my humble opinion, and I'm just giving you my own personal opinion, what they really want, they want a decrease in population. Because when you have elderly people that you're paying for, because they have a lot more health problems, what's basically happening is they're draining the system. And then when you have individuals who are living off the welfare system, they're draining the system. You have companies who have to pay unemployment insurance. Well, people getting unemployment are draining the system. So with this tyranny that's taken place, there's a lot of elitism. And again, with this country, we talk so much about pinning the peons against one another, but while we are going against one another, the elitists are making all these rules. There's a lot of globalism because in actuality, the global elites want a one world government to where they benefit while the rest of us suffer. And when it comes to most people, they're not educated enough to see what's going on. So they're sheeple. Because when you don't read or we don't pay attention to current events, you end up falling for the okie-doke. Okey-doke. It's all about complying. The government is trying to scare people any way they can into getting the jab. In fact, this administration gets a lot of money from these corporations. These corporations are filled with demonic people, nefarious people. So when it comes to tyranny, tyranny is in the back pockets of now your unemployment benefits. And this is what happens when you vote for the wrong types of people. I mean, the so-called Dell variance is here. But I haven't heard too many deaths from that new virus. I don't even know if it is a virus. And see, the government can put out a lot of propaganda to get people to comply. And when people start complying, they're complying out of fear. So my advice to anyone, if you're going to go to work, see if you can get a copy of the requirements of the jab and work policy. Now, to me, what you should take, provide proof that you had Rona. Now, there's some companies out here that, okay, if you don't get the jab, we're going to make you take the Rona test every week. And if they're using that swab is painful. I know I had it. I felt my eyeballs being scratched out. But in the midst of what's going on, tyranny is in the back pocket of unemployment benefits. Now, it's funny, nobody's mentioning big pharma when it comes to the jab. Are they getting big money? You see, the elitists want to keep all the money, and they want to hand us what they believe we should get. And when the elitists talk about oppression or decreasing the population, has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with sexual orientation, religion. They look at all of us, the 99 percentile, as peons, because the 1% isn't going to give up their power, and they're not going to give up their money, because they want to maintain their status, and they want to continue to have their own security. They want to continue to have their own health care. They really want to separate themselves from us because it's about class, but we are substituting race for class, and that's all of us. And so when you have the elites out here that have us fighting with one another, the vac versus the unvac, young versus elderly people, men versus women, that's to create chaos so they can continue to ram their policies down our throat so we can be part of their scheme to decrease the population. Therefore, the government doesn't have to help the elderly. They don't have to help the people on welfare. And what's making it worse again, they're not requiring anyone coming across the border to get the jab, to wear masks. And part of the program is to keep Americans oppressed. So the bottom line, it's not about racism. It's about classism. Because in the end, you have to ask yourself this question. Do you want to be sheeple and live under tyranny? Or do you want to keep the rights that we have? Because right now, the elitists are utilizing this jab to take our rights away. And what's going to happen, they're going to keep us from flying on airplanes, traveling, going to college, going to work. They want total control over our lives. The question is, are we going to let that happen? Because at the end of the day, the war is between good and evil. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are looking for some education in the STEM fields, check out my channel, The Mind of STEM channel. On that channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And if you really want to go down into the rabbit hole, check me out on Blog Talk Radio. I'm still doing Blog Talk Radio. 215-383-5785 is the number. And also, I'm not a pastor, so I'm not going to beg. If you want to contribute to the content, hit the Cash App. It's $LEJ 0102 1965. The link to the Cash App is always posted at the bottom of my video as well. Or I'd say the bottom of my videos. Again, support the channel. You can support these women's channels, support my channel, because I still do regular content. It's important that I continue to provide the news. Panels are good, but it's camming up while you're doing your content. Now, if you can't find me on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, you can always check me out on MeWe, Parler, and Twitter. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to leave you with this. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And for this content that you are viewing, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious day. God bless you. I'm out.